Hello.
Hello.
Barbie.
Yes.
Apparently, I need to watch it. And you've said so. A
Yes.
few people at work have said so, and it's really not my kind of film. So, you said,
It's a masterpiece.
can you elaborate?
Yes, I can. Are you going to go and see it?
I'm not paying for it.
Well, in that case, I can tell you the whole story.
Tell me the whole story. Yeah, you can tell me the whole story. I think I kind of know what the story's about.
Okay.
But I need you to talk to me about what you interpreted from it. Because so many people are...
Wondering.
There were some interesting things said to me today.
Okay. Wow. Well, nobody gets away with it. The feminists get the rocket up the jacksie. The blokes get one up the jacksie. The patriarchy thing confesses itself on screen and is okay with it. It's incredible. And then Barbie does something really amazing at the end of it,
I know at the end
which
of it.
sets itself up for the sequel.
Sequel. Okay.
Yeah.
But people are saying there's lots of political things
There
in it.
is.
There's lots of gender identity issues, gender whatever.
Yes.
And there's a bloke at work that said if you don't like men, go and watch it. It was like, wow, okay. I just don't like
good
pink
for
that much,
him.
even though I'm wearing kind of pink. I'm trying to
Do
embrace
you know?
pink.
Do you know? He said, if you don't like men, go and watch it. And that's actually quite interesting because it's really fascinating. Because Ken, all right, exists for the gaze of Barbie. Okay.
Just the gays.
When she looks at him, he feels wonderful. So he needs her energy, her attention. And that's a bit of a problem. It's like a rock star who needs the crowd's adulation, or it's like a child who needs mummy to keep looking at them. Ken needs Barbie's gaze. And, you know, the problem is that Barbie probably prefers girls.
Okay, Mark.
Okay.
Where did that come from?
Well, because every night is girls' night. Now, Barbie, you see, the person that Ken has given his heart to is a total airhead who is barely aware that he exists. This is the perfect thing about the entire thing. You know, the whole thing starts with this wonderful takeoff of, what's that one with the monolith? Da 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 da, and there's Barbie.
Oh, yeah.
There's Barbie, and there's suddenly all these kids from the 1940s with their dollies battering them to death. It's a really creepy view. So you know you're in for something quite fun. And the audience is mainly over the age of 50, as far as I can gather. So this is a product making a film to sell a product. And we've seen it before. We saw it with Toy Story, we saw it with Monsters Inc. And you know, you make a product, you make a story about the product, that sells the product. Now the question is what story? And Barbie is a granny, and she's trying to make herself relevant to a new buying market. And so what she's done is talked about them. Now, Barbie lives in a girlyarchy, all right? It's not a patriarchy, it's a girlyarchy. It's not even a mummyarchy, it's a girlyarchy, because no one's got any genitals. So everyone, she's a total
asexual.
She's a total airhead. Nothing goes wrong. I have no idea why there is a Supreme Court judge, Barbie, and why there is an attorney at law, Barbie, because nothing goes wrong in Barbie's land, which is why she wakes up.
That's why she wears all these different outfits.
Well, yeah, she wakes up and she's like a stoner. Yeah, and her world is pink and everything's perfect. And she doesn't even have stairs to bother with. She just like floats down into the world. And you see, the interesting thing about Barbie and the girls is this. This is why Barbie isn't interested in Ken, because Ken is a needy addict for her attention. And giving compliments to Ken is like throwing chipolatas into a black hole, all right? They just vanish, all right? So you say to Ken, gosh, Ken, you're looking great today. Man, really nailing it. And Ken will go like, yeah, I am. You know, thanks. You know, it's just like, yeah, thanks. You know, whereas the girls, they're busy, they give it back. So when they meet each other, it's all like, yeah! And what, yeah, to you too! And all this stuff. And that's what girls do. They bounce this really lovely, playful energy back and forth. And they can actually live on that. And that's what Barbie lives on, is this lovely fizz. And then the film really begins because Barbie has a thought. Oh my word! And it's a thought of death. Wow! Now that's like a big thought for a plastic doll. All right, different time scale, but it's nice, it's nice. Recognises its mortality. And so she's having a bit of a think about this. And this is what causes the time rip between Barbie's world and this one.
And the funny Barbie. Or
That's right, and this is what happened.
Apparently that's me.
Yes, it is. Skipper. You see, that's you. You're the adventurer. No, I've had it with this pig stuff. And you go out into the real world and realise how opposite it is of Barbie. You know, the real world is everyone's wearing black and they're in grey and they're all fucking cross and being really rude to each other and everything. There's a real hostile edge about the real world. And
that's what we said about colour, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And Barbie comes into this world and she's looking for a market base that doesn't exist anymore. You know, she thinks she's saved the world and released feminine people to be all that they can be, and this sort of stuff. And she found out that was not the case. You know, it's a fascinating thing. And actually, in Barbie's world, I tell you what, anyone who's different is like they're going, oh, 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 oh. They haven't got genitals, but they make each other sick by being different. And when Barbie's feet go flat, everyone can barely stop barfing. You know what I'm saying here? They were repelled by this. So this is a very, very shallow community based on Twinkle, suddenly coming into a world and realising that it's not. And what's interesting about the Twinkle world is it's the reverse of what we have here. The girls are in charge, the boys are invisible, craving to be recognised. In this world, the boys are in charge, the girls are invisible, craving to be recognised. So there's loads of this stuff going on. And in it, Mattel have just masterfully cast themselves, all right? There's truth in it. There's a candour, because you go into the Mattel building and it's like, oh my word, it's like corporate grey. And then you go up into the floor and they're all in rabbit hutches and this deeply gloomy little office wearing exactly the same clothes. It's that dystopian working thing. And word is Barbie keeps getting fucking arrested because, you know, she doesn't do cash. And Ken's with her and he's a total liability. Yeah, you know. And so the police people ring up Mattel and say, we've got one of your Barbies, you better sort it out. And apparently this happened years ago. And so they have experience of this. As the employee goes up to the top floor, which is a really scary place, he gets into the top floor management. And there's all these guys, they're sort of like, you know, kind of strange happy guys wearing very, very dark suits, calculating figures. And there's the CEO in front of them, who's a total airhead. And again, behaves in a very patronising, male, patriarchal way to the employee, who's bringing in some serious news. So this is a lovely company that's made all sugar and spice and all things nice. But at the top of it, it's got people like that. And they're not nasty. They don't appear to be nasty. They appear to be blitheringly incompetent and quite sweet. But they wear the blackest of suits. They're rude to their staff. They drive around in seriously black cars in close combat formation at speed. All right. So there's these two armoured vehicles, and they're zooming down the road at 50k, and they're accelerating, and there's a meter between them. I mean, these are highly sophisticated combat skills. And then the CEO gets all of his employees just to go to Barbie Land, because like, yeah, you know, and they all go to Barbie Land and all kinds of interesting things happen. But the Mattel management portray themselves as nice, generally white male, slightly incompetent, despite this incredibly menacing little cupboard of things they've got, like men with dark glasses who come to arrest Barbie. You know, Barbie's actually exhibiting a consciousness, you know. It's really quite an interesting thing, and they're treating her like a product. It's just mind-blowing, actually. But Barbie has Weird Barbie to help her. Oh. And Weird Barbie has been played with roughly by her girlie, and has had her beauty ideals changed. And that's why she's had new ideas. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. With experience comes development. And because Barbie has no experience, she has no development. That's why she's like Bambi in this world. Total airhead. For Ken, it is also true. And yet, in Barbie world, they go through the same punch-up. You know, it's really interesting that their relationship skills are shit. And the entire film is actually about relationship skills. Really. You know, if Barbie wants Ken in her life, she needs to pay him some fucking attention.
Oh, yeah.
And talk to him. And he just needs her gaze. It's really interesting. She doesn't...
That's the problem with lots of relationships, isn't it? It's the balance of that.
Well,
people have different...
Well, Ken is utterly besotted and therefore clinically mad. Okay?
Right.
That's why he keeps making all these silly moves to try to get her attention. And most young men will relate to that silly stuff.
I suppose so when they're really young, yeah, of course.
Well, no, I see 30-year-olds doing it.
Really?
Well, what's bungee jumping all about? Hey, look how attractive I am. Boing! You know, thrill-seeking, adrenaline freaks. Yeah! Sexy, rhesus monkey. You know, mating characteristics. I can handle some danger. Fancy mating? It's just so basic. It's so basic, and they're competing with each other for the attention of, you know, the prime specimen, and that's Barbie. It's just so exquisitely to ourselves. And this is the funny part. I went with a bloke. Alright?
No, I just can't.
I went with a bloke, and he's a really fascinating bloke. He's really well developed. And it went right over his head. And the reason it went right over his head is because he's Ken. He's Ken. You know, and Ken can't recognise Ken. Ken is bewildered by Ken. Because Ken, man, you can't...
I can imagine his face in the cinema though. I bet he was like, did you try and steal children on the way in?
He did.
He was mortified.
He did. He said, look. I'm not sure about this. Just pretend the kids won't sit with us because we're embarrassing and old. And you know, I said, all right. I was all right with that. And we went in, and actually the audience had a fascinating split. Most of them were over the age of 50. There was art researchers, there was photographic students, there was a smattering of teenagers wearing pink, protest, neurodivergent pink. There was some lovely couples, female couples wearing pink. There was some lovely boys wearing pink.
Did you go to a big cinema then?
Yeah, it was. And I realised that the Barbie film is being launched, or has been thrown at the people who buy the Barbie, not the people who play with the Barbie. People who buy the Barbie, and that's the grandparents. That's going to be the parents. So
is it to remind them to buy Barbie?
Well,
it's their childhood.
Well, you know
they
what?
Can relate to it, so they'll buy grandparents.
I shit you not. This thing did.
Barbie still for sale?
This thing did $1 billion in its first 3 weeks. So whoever put this together.
Is Cindy going to come out?
Knew how to flick the buttons. It was
action, man.
It's so relevant culturally and socially at this time. That's what they did. It was really fascinating. It's a beautiful. It really is a beautiful piece. I mean, there's no laughs, but it's the games that are being played on you by the filmmaker. That's what I'm interested in seeing. And in it, he says, "No, man, we still do patriarchy. It's just not that obvious anymore." You know, things like that. They say things like all sorts of stuff like that. And then when you actually see what's happening in the film, you know, Barbie's treated like a product despite the fact she has consciousness. These guys are driving around in the most militarised way. Their staff work in absolute gloom. They live in luxury, treat their staff like meatheads. crikey, do all sorts of things whilst actually appearing quite friendly and acceptable.
Isn't that the world we live in, really?
Out within the world that we live in. And, you know, Barbie's girliarchy, by contrast, they do a lot more laughing. You know, they're actually simple creatures, really. I think that... Well, they are. They're just dealing with the basic energy of being seen and heard. And not being too different. You know, there's an enormous comfort in that. You know, every It Girl crowd will recognise that. You know. And then when one of them becomes different, and that's Barbie, holy, 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 you know, wow, she's got to get fixed.
Never been in that.
She's got to go somewhere. Yeah.
Never related to that. Never wanted to be part of that. He just... I was given a doll early on. I was given Cindy first.
Were you really?
Yeah, and I was like, I want Action Man. I had Action Man at 4.
Now you see, this is really interesting. Barbie is presented
I had Cindy as well, don't get me wrong.
as this really perfect, wonderful, vapid pink life, lovely, everything. No, you know, lots of qualifications, but nothing horrible happens to her. Action Man turns up and he has a scar on his cheek. Did you notice that?
Yeah, he's got moving eyes.
He's got the frigging scar on his cheek. You know, so can you see the codes being levied by these toy makers? You're a man, it's going to hurt, it's got a scar on your cheek, but apparently Barbie thinks that's sexy. And this is probably why she has no time for Ken.
Was Cindy the English version?
Yes, she was. Yes.
In my opinion, a little bit more classy.
Well, apparently she's in Peckham now, a single mother, drunk on gin.
Oh, wow.
It's an amazing film.
Yeah, I had a Cindy Cerebral. I had a Cindy car. Then I had Action Man, motorbike and sidecar.
Motorbike.
Pretty sure I had the tank.
And the tank.
Yeah, and I had lots
So-
of accessories.
So the boys' toys are grooming you for war and
No, I
servitude.
wouldn't play with girl toys.
And the girls' toys
I refused
are
to.
grooming you
I'm about
for
the age of 5.
retail perfection or don't even bother turning up. You know, it's really interesting to see
I
these
thought, what
things.
do I want a doll for? I don't want kids. I knew that when I was about that high. I didn't play with girls' toys. Didn't like them, per se. Don't know why. Just didn't. Well, I don't know why.
Do you think someone's won the football?
Someone's done something, haven't they? Football's happened, isn't it?
Well, I don't know.
That happened 2 or 3 days ago.
Well, I don't fucking
What the fuck's that about then? Cricket? No.
know. I don't know.
What are we playing? Rugby?
No idea. No idea. I'm still in Barbie Land. Transfixed. I've seen it twice now.
Lorraine spent saw it again with my neighbour the other day.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what the filmmaker's telling me. And it's really...
You've seen it again? You've paid again?
Well,
Who did you go with?
I took with my mate, and then I also took her indoors.
Her indoors? Did you just really say that out loud? Established now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Her indoors.
Yeah, entirely so. Entirely so. And yeah.
We've got 1.5 minutes before I think YouTube will tell me to fuck off if we carry on.
Well, that's, for God's sake, that's a relief, because I can't think of anything interesting to say apart from have a lovely life. Don't worry about the Barbie film. It's one of those big conversations that's going to go on for years and years and years, and if you don't see it, you don't have to join in.
I needed someone else. Did you notice the
You'll be
lighting?
right.
Did you notice the lighting?
Yes.
Yeah, lighting. Yeah, this lighting's phenomenal. The reason why it's phenomenal is because of him.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Have a
Because
lovely
this is
evening.
an old iPad from 2015 in a dark kitchen. Look at that then. Quality. And it's on the selfie camera, not even on the decent camera. That little dot in the corner. That's why I've got to look there and not there.
Production values.
Come on.
Whatever.
We're using
Analog, baby.
right. Look at that. Peace, love and light.
Yeah.